Yes, it has changed a lot, and it has changed also because I didn't come with a fixed project in mind. So I guess my ideas have developed throughout the time of the open access, and then that went to the development of a prototype. Well, I became more aware of listening and how to work with sound. I learned new projects, like new programs for dealing with sound. And yeah, then I think I learned throughout the different trainings and workshops about different tools for working with media or websites or with online projects, which I haven't used. So they are in my knowledge now, but I haven't used them specifically for my project. Yes, so my prototype at this moment is a soundscape, a sound file, a sound installation. I still don't know how to call it. I guess it's in between it's a sound work that deals with the concept of water and bodies in water. And with this idea of immersion and being submerged, and how you could orientate yourself and your senses if you would be in another medium, like underwater. And it consists, so the installation was developed differently in these different places. Because I think I enjoy working with the space in which I show a work, not only putting the work there, but thinking about how the space is and what the space would need. And so for the sound file, I did a lot of recordings underwater. I got myself some hydrophones, which are the microphones that record the sounds underwater. And also that was part of the process. Like I learned how to use a hydrophone and to do recordings underwater. And the sound file features a lot of that. A lot of the underwater soundscapes, environments that we can't hear normally, but also sounds of big boats and sounds of the body interacting with the water. And besides this, I also made a publication that adds a new content to the soundscape, because it's also called neutral buoyancy. So the work is called neutral buoyancy, which is a state of not floating and not sinking in the water, but being kind of neutral, like the way divers learn to reach neutral buoyancy. And the publication features some clay drawings that I made and some writing in clay. I actually have one here which I could show. And then the publication has also a fluid shape, in the sense that I'll explain. So it's like this.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be a bit like wavelengths, or the waves in the water, the way it goes, because then when you get it out through the grids.
Okay.
And then there's different like drawings and text on them that are done in wet clay. And then it doesn't have a numbers or an order. I wanted to embrace this idea of a fluid form, of a fluid shape, and you can open it in a certain way that I think it's logical for me, but then you can spread it, divide it, or put it back together. And then you can also decide, maybe another way of putting it back, that, it can be on the on the horizontal or not on vertical, or finding other patterns in which it can sit in the structure. I mean, I'm doing it now very, you know, it could be this other way, or it could, yeah, just be blended differently. Definitely, that was in Lisbon, in the lab in Lisbon. At the end of it, because we were testing some ideas and showing, we did this sharing session, and for it I prepared a small soundscape with sounds that I recorded in Lisbon during the time that I was there, and it just felt really right. It was, you know, a quite purely intuitive decision, but it felt really engaging and interesting for me to continue to work with sound, and not really knowing what the theme would be, but knowing that the theme would be in this medium that I would like to explore and pay more attention to. So I really think that was a clear decision at that moment. After sharing the soundscape with the rest of the participants, yeah, I made my decision to continue to work on sound. Yeah, I don't know if I have an original concept, because it was more that I wanted to work with the medium of sound. I mean, it did evolve. First I was thinking to work to do a workshop around sounds, and sounds that are going to disappear, like sounds of the present that we think they're going to disappear in the next couple of years. And that would have been a workshop maybe with participants, or yeah, who knows, maybe another sound would have to become another sound work. But given the current situation with Corona, and also the idea of participation and how you involve other people into your work, like to co-create, not to just interact with your work, but to be co-creators in a way. I thought I don't feel okay doing it online or exploring it not fully. And I still think it's it's an interesting idea, but that could maybe be explored differently, like in another setting, more like maybe a teaching environment. Actually, I tried some exercises I had the teaching opportunity, and I tried some of exercises. So I think more like that, like unfocused, more like I could do these exercises as an unfocused way, not for making a work, but just to create a dialogue with other people. Yeah, then after this, I guess the concept evolved, but I don't think I had a clear concept of what I wanted to do and make it. It was more like doing and discovering what it is that interests me the most. It was definitely the idea of water and underwater, and how the body interacts with a big water environment. In the beginning, I was just thinking of I knew I wanted to do a sound work and a publication.
Okay.
So I knew there would be two mediations, and that they wouldn't be the same. Like they would bring different concepts. They wouldn't just translate one idea into different mediums, but they would bring new information in the publication and in the sound. So that I continued. I did it like that, still two different mediations, and then. Yeah, I guess also the showcase in Cluj looks very different than the showcase in Lisbon, because the place was different. So then I printed some watercolors that I did on big fabrics and weave them in the fence in Cluj. And then in Lisbon, I printed the same watercolors, but on curtains, so they would create heighten the space. And then I also worked on the sound work, and the sound work also developed from Cluj to Lisbon, and it will still develop. So then, yeah, part of the mediations stay the same, and then part evolved according to the space. And I think from now they will still evolve, because now I'm thinking, oh, it would be nice, just outside of the project, just for me to work maybe on a video with the clay, and drawings that I made for the publication. So it could continue to develop, and I would like it to continue to develop. Well, I guess it's a transmedia creation because it brings different pieces of knowledge with different mediums and different artworks. So it's like it's the information about it, it's dispersed into different objects. So like one is the sound work that is very sound based and focused on this underwater sounds, and then there's the publication that is focused on the idea of a fluid shape and of space and the body holding space. Yeah, in this sense, I think it's, and then the space is different, so the audience can encounter the work differently, where, like, if they went into the exhibition space, or if they look at the publication, or if they listen to the soundscape online. Yeah, in this sense, I think it's a transmedia creation because it uses different media, but not to translate the concept, but to actually add more knowledge about it through the different medium. Not to a big extent. Yeah, as I said before, I do struggle with this idea of co-creation in my work, like how to do it, that is ethical and inclusive and not exploitative. And yeah, for this work, it just felt more important for me to actually do it and then let the other people experience it. And yeah, involved, like, there is no work without the audience, so there is a participation in the sense that of course every person would need to listen to the work or go through the actual space or read the publication, or do participate in how the publication is re-put together after being read. So that obviously it involves participation in this sense, or interaction with the works, but not really co-creation. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but no, because it's not audience. No, just because in the beginning I asked, like, as part of research, I asked some of my friends to do listening exercises with me, like in different spaces, because we couldn't meet physically. But that is not audience. That's more like research based on, yeah, working with other people. Yeah, that's hard. That's a question of art, live art.
Yes, it's very hard.
It's a big question, which I don't attempt to answer it fully. But in this case, I think we were all aware that situations can change, and that like, I was aware that maybe the work, if I'm thinking the work for a live audience, the work, it might not happen in a live environment because of the current situation. So I guess in this sense, this is also why I decided to work on it, and then have this, I don't know, different possibilities of showing it. It could be in a real space, but also it could be online, or yeah, I think the audience is important, especially to a performance. But I chose not to do a performance. Also, as part of this, one of the reasons was this, because I wasn't sure this could happen. And I mean, also for this work, it was more important for it to be an installation. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think audience is necessary. It can also be online now. You know, we have the tools, we have the techniques. We can have online audiences, and that's also okay. Of course, there's another relationship that's being established if there is live audience. I guess for me, what was really interesting was because for Cluj, for the showcase in Cluj in Romania, I did the prototype took the shape of a sound walk, but without me being the guide to it. It was I printed some sort of indications, exercises on the fence that was surrounding a pond. And then the idea was that the audience could go around and read the exercises or the notes. They weren't very direct exercises, but for example, three sounds heard from above, the sound of your steps. So there would be indications to sound that they could physically hear, or that they could think of from the memory, like a sound that you like or that you dislike, or so they could connect their oral memory or their physical presence to the space. And for that, there needed to be a live audience, a physical audience, but I wasn't needed there as a guide or as a performer. It was the work itself performing itself in this way. So I thought that was interesting as a way of thinking, that sometimes it's also possible that the audience can do in their own terms, and the work can suggest certain actions or a certain way the body moves, because also in this case the pond was so they had to move around to see all the text, if they wanted, of course, to read all the text around. So it was also the idea of the body moving around the work to experience the whole work. I wouldn't say that transmedia changed the way I create. I think it did change a lot in the past, in the recent time, but I think it did change more because of my life and because of what's happening in the world. And I think that affects everyone, like in to an extent, and not only thinking about art, but just thinking about basic questions of like how we live our lives, and what's the point of art, and what, I don't know. I think I went through a lot of thinking recently because of the situation that is currently happening in the world, like on a personal level, but also on a more like thinking more on a bigger level of the role of art, the role of art institutions, how can that function in the world at the moment or in general, and yeah, what do we bring as artists? So I think the situation brought a lot of thoughts to think about. And, yeah, also through my work, but I think my work just changed, not necessarily because of transmedia, but changed because some life happened, changed because life happens. Yeah, I think so. I think it's something that is interesting to use and maybe to explore more mediums. And in general, I think work. I think a work opens up other ideas, and I appreciate when it's divided into, or when the meaning is spread across different platforms or different mediums. So yeah, I think I will continue.
Okay.